A slice of life from Stormpier, the crossroads of the Western Road. In Stormpier, the river didn't just divide the land, it defined it. Each morning, the bridge bells rang just after dawn. 3 short tones if the river's surge was clear, 1 long if it wasn't, and if no bells rang at all, well, then someone had failed their post. Today they rang 3. Maedra cleft, 3rd watch bridge warden, cracked her neck, slung her lantern into its hip loop, and stepped out into the gray-misted chill that marked early spring on the copper frontier. Her coat was still damp from the night before. Everything stayed damp here: air, stone, soul. The town behind her stirred in slow motion. Vendors pulled canvas over their stalls, the baker's chimney coughed into life, and the watch commander's hound pissed lazily on the courtyard fountain. Ahead, the bridge of Stormpier stretched across the gorge like a sword of stone and steel. It had stood for over 7 centuries, long before the current world powers carved up maps with ink and blood. There was no other crossing for 100 miles in either direction. Everyone passed through Stormpier, and everyone paid toll. Maedra walked its length with careful steps, boots echoing against the stone in quiet rhythm. Below, the river crashed between jagged cliffs, foam and mist curling upward like breath from a wounded god. You didn't fall in, no one who had ever did. She checked each gate latch, each counterweight pulley, each alchemical pressure seal along the load-bearing struts. Stormpier might be far from copper proper, but it still bore the mark of copper's engineers: tight tolerances, glimmering copper glyphs, and an expectation of excellence. Maedra didn't mind the precision. It gave her purpose. Halfway across the span, she passed Tower East, where the signal crystal flickered soft blue. No surge, no sabotage, no unauthorized crossing. The last was especially important. Not long ago, a pair of mages tried to drift across the river using wind skates and got caught in the downstream pull of a roilwake eddy. They hadn't screamed for long. On the far side, she checked in with the south outpost gate, where a sleepy runner handed her a fresh report: 3 merchant wagons inbound from the north, and a pair of armored riders bearing the seal of the Copran Free Road Authority. Inspectors. Wonderful. Any sign of trouble? She asked. The runner shrugged. One of the wagons is hauling a sealed crate with a suppression ward. Nothing active, but it's humming. Merchant or mercenary? Merchant. Claimed it's a protected relic from the verdant frontier. Maedra rubbed her temple. Of course it is. She made a note, flagged the report, and started the walk back toward town just as the bells rang again, this time for noon. As she crossed, the wind picked up. The spray hit her coat. She adjusted her lantern to block it. On days like this, the river almost looked like it was breathing, rising and falling, pulling at the air. She reached the mid-span overlook where Taran Slow, the bridgewright's assistant, had already set up his gear for routine inspections. He wasn't supposed to be there unsupervised, but that had never stopped him. "You're early," Maedra said. "I was bored," Taran replied, tightening a spanner on the load anchor. "And I like the view." "You also like ignoring protocol," he smiled. "It's not illegal if I fix something." She didn't argue. The bridge groaned softly as the sun shifted. Far below, whitecaps churned like ghosts in the current. They stood in silence for a while, sharing a thermos of bitter tea as 3 dots crested the northern road. 2 riders, 1 wagon, drawn by a 6-legged pack beast with a tarp-covered load. "Want me to check the seal?" Taran offered. "You'll do no such thing," she said, setting down her cup. "You'll finish your wrench work and get back to town before the gate captain sees you here." He grinned and tightened one last bolt. Maedra waited until the figures neared the toll gate before she moved. Just another day on bridge duty. Another day making sure the road stayed open. The river stayed quiet and no one crossed who shouldn't, and that, in Stormpier, was enough.